So happy to see you all today. I'm Joyce Kennedy with People and Pollinators Action Network. It's so great to be here in person. Wonderful. I heard our next speaker, David Sirota, speak earlier this year at another event, and I knew right away that I wanted to invite him to the Pollinator Summit, and you'll see why in just a minute. David brings an inspirational message and a vision of how we can leverage resources to make change in the world. And there will be no afternoon slump with David leading off our afternoon session. I direct you to the program. Please read his bio in depth. What I will say is that David is Denver-based. He's an award-winning journalist and Oscar-nominated co-writer of the Best Picture-nominated film, Don't Look Up. Welcome, David Sirota. You can use that or this, whatever you want.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. It's a little bit of a weird day. I'm a journalist, so in my line of work, trying to parse through all the election results have been busy. And in my view, the election results were a good sign. Maybe not the greatest election results, but certainly not as bad as it could have been, which is really good. And I think it's it's really good for the set of issues that you're all here to talk about and that you all work on. In specific for climate. A lot of climate denialists lost last night, which is very good. That's very good. Our movie, Don't Look Up, was, if you haven't seen it, I won't give it away. Okay. Our movie was about a metaphor for the world that we're living in now and the respect or lack of respect for science that we deal with every day in our world. It's about an asteroid that's headed towards Earth, and the question is, does anybody care? Is anybody going to take it seriously? And it was obviously a metaphor for things like climate. And the movie has a kind of dark ending, and we had to just fight over it. Well, not exactly a fight, but there was some tension about whether to end it as darkly as we ended it. Which is to say that the asteroid does end up hitting the Earth. There's the spoiler. And it really, I think, blew a lot of people away that we actually did it that way. We kind of didn't let the audience off the hook. And we made a decision to not let the audience off the hook because I think that's the easy way out. That's kind of the Hollywood way out. And there really is no way out of this in the real world unless we all take the threat seriously. And what I'm encouraged about in the election last night is not just that a lot of climate denialists lost, and some won, but also when you look in the exit polls, climate is starting to rank higher and higher on people's minds. That it's still not enough. It's kind of incredible to me that there are still 40 or 45% of people who say they're not worried about the effects of climate change in their communities, but there's 55 or 60% of people who say that they are. That's good. There are a number of voters who said it was their top or among their top issues. So that's good too. I think we are, in my view, we are beyond where denialism, straight up denialism of the crisis is normalized and acceptable. I think we are at a point where even Republican politicians bankrolled by big oil are willing to admit that the climate is in fact changing and that that's probably not a good thing. So that is all progress. That is all, if you're in the movie, that is all people starting to at least recognize and stop denying that the asteroid is headed towards the planet. That's the good news. The bad news is, and I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but the bad news is it's not moving fast enough. The awareness and the willingness to do things, and that we are on a clock that will keep ticking. no matter what kind of debate and discourse we have in our politics. So that's what's really scary. That's what keeps me up at night, which is to say that the clock is ticking, and we can debate and discuss and politic and campaign, but that clock is still ticking. And so what I think about a lot is, how do we actually move people to do what needs to be done? And I don't have a good silver bullet answer to that, other than to say a few things. One, the awareness of the crisis needs to be front and center in everything that everyone does, whether it's talking to your family, whether it's talking to your coworkers, whether it's the work that you do, how the climate crisis impacts the work you're doing and is making things more dangerous and worse on this planet needs to be part of the discourse constantly, day to day. I make this point a lot when I talk about media. And it's something that I said when the movie came out, which was, because in the movie, there's a lot of reflection on how the media covers this. The economy is part of the media discourse. It's baked in. That's how news is covered. The economy is not an issue. It's part of how we discuss all issues. And climate needs to be part of how we discuss all issues, because it touches basically all issues. So think about that in your own life, in your own work, in your own interactions. That awareness is really, really important. The second thing I think we need to be thinking about, and I come out of politics and the like, is to try to hold politicians accountable and understand how to hold them accountable on specific things that they can do or won't do. And I don't think we have that politics yet, even in a blue state like Colorado. I think we have, it's better than other states. And I think there are good people, present company included, here in this room, who are trying to do the right thing. And we have to help them, and we have to support them, and we have to be specific about the people who are the obstacles, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, because this is a bipartisan problem. The lack of action is a bipartisan problem. And we have to acknowledge that it is a bipartisan problem, that red versus blue does not work when it comes to this, that there are problems in both parties. And I think we live in a world where we don't want to accept that, where we're taught one party is the good guys, the other party is the bad guys, and don't say anything critical or pressure the good guys, because that may help the bad guys. That is a lot of nonsense, in my view, especially on the issue of climate change. And we have to understand specifically what we're asking for. So when you are thinking about what the Colorado legislature is doing, as an example, it's important to be specific about what needs to be done, understand which bills need to pass, understand what needs to be in those bills, and then make clear to your legislators that you're going to hold them accountable, and you are watching which side of those bills they are on. I frankly don't think we have that kind of politics in this state yet. I don't think we have that kind of politics yet in much of any state yet, at least not at the level we need. And it goes back to part of it being a media problem as well. The media is not doing a great job of telling us which bills are important, how those bills get watered down. And that's my lament as somebody who's a journalist, because that is our job. And I don't think that's happening nearly enough. But I do think it's not a huge lift for especially people in this room who work in and around this subject to do your best to understand some of the basic things that are moving through our legislature and try to educate people around you about why they are important, who is on what side. Essentially, what we want to do is we want to get to a politics where people who are running for election in this state feel like they have to, whether they want to or not, feel like they have to be on the right side of this issue or they risk being thrown out of office. That's the politics we need to get to. And we don't have those politics yet. But I think we can get there. I really do. Now, the one other thing I will say about this is I think we have to recognize how difficult the politics of this are, because it really is difficult. I just came from spending 4 days back in I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I grew up with the guy who was the Democratic nominee for governor there. And I spent some time with him in Western Pennsylvania in coal country and fracking country. And you really see up close how difficult the politics of a state like that are when you are talking about climate, but you're also talking about people's jobs. And so I think we have to be sensitive to that and understand how difficult those politics are, but also be willing to make demands that science is telling us to make. And I don't think it's automatically an either or choice between jobs, the economy, and science. But we have to find those places where the science can do right, that respecting the science allows us to also do right by not just the macroeconomy, but the microeconomy, people's jobs, people's, essentially their communities that have relied on an industry or jobs in an industry that are at odds now with the science. I only say that because I think sometimes it's easy to reduce this discussion to something just between the science and nothing else. And I'm not saying disrespect the science. I'm saying we have to understand how sensitive that issue is and really work hard to find ways to pass the test of not ruining people's lives while also respecting the science. It's a terrible conundrum right now in this country. But I am actually, underneath it all, I am an optimist. I may have made a somewhat pessimistic movie, but maybe the most pessimistic movie that's ever been made. But the reason we made that movie was because we are optimists, because we believe that the comet doesn't have to hit the Earth. I've said it before, I'll say it again about our film. Our film was not prophecy or destiny. It's cautionary. It's to say we are not at the end of the movie at the table just waiting for the asteroid to hit. And I think that's the good news, that we can definitely still deal with this crisis. Definitely. It's not even a question. We have the science already right now to get us most of the way there. We're not waiting for some magic wand to be waved and something to be invented that hasn't been invented. We actually have the science to address this problem in a very real and significant way. And even if we do not fully defeat the problem, get all the way down to the parts per million that we need to get to, every bit of progress we make helps in a huge way, kind of in a mind-bogglingly huge way. Every degree or half degree of warming that we prevent protects billions, trillions of dollars, millions of lives. That's not an overstatement. So I leave you with the idea that while this fight can be really demoralizing because it feels like sometimes nobody's listening and it feels so giant, right? It's such a big problem. I know I was talking to somebody beforehand, Joyce, it wasn't Joyce, it was somebody from Boulder I was talking to about the tax initiative, the climate tax initiative. And there can be this idea that because we can't do one thing or your community can't do one thing that fixes it all, that nobody should really try to do anything. In other words, the size of the problem can create paralysis. And I get that. But I really do think that, again, every bit of progress we make, every bit of progress a community makes, helps reduce the warming. And we have to stay focused on that if we care about our children. So I leave you with the idea that I am optimistic that we can do this, that it is simply a matter of political will. It is within our power to deal with this crisis in a real way, which should be actually very exciting. And actually we should feel lucky, because if we don't act right now, future generations will not be able to say what I just said. They will not be able to say that they can stop what we potentially will have locked in. So we are blessed to live in a moment where we can actually save the world. We really have the power to save the world. But it's going to take, frankly, the rest of our lives working as hard as we all can in this room to do what needs to be done, to raise that awareness, to hold politicians accountable, to hold corporations accountable, to hold everybody accountable to make that progress. It is totally doable. It's just going to take a lot of work. There are no shortcuts here. Everyone's looking for a shortcut, a simple solution. That doesn't exist. But I will say, the last thing I will say about this is, every piece of progress in human history has not happened overnight. Everything you look back on in the history of this country that you're like, wow, I can't believe we did that. That was amazing. That didn't just happen where some savior politician woke up one day and decided, I'm going to be a nice guy and just, create civil rights in America, right? That's not how it works. It works by people fighting throughout their lifetime, and then other generations, future generations, carrying on that fight. So it requires us, in an instant gratification kind of culture, where we are encouraged to only think that progress happens immediately. It requires a mindset shift that, I'm sorry, the work that we have to do is not, the final goal is not going to be realized all at once. It may not even be realized in our lifetime, but that is the work we need to do, and we need to be happy warriors about it, and we need to be firm warriors about it. And I know that if everyone in this room, and everyone in rooms and in the work like this, does that, we can be successful. That asteroid does not have to hit the Earth. We can be successful, and frankly, failure, if you care about your kids, if you care about future generations, failure cannot be an option. Thank you very much.
Hold on one second. We're not going to do questions. However, I am going to ask you, David, to just tell us about that scene in the movie. Something to do with pollinators.
The bee? Yes. Oh, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, there's a scene in the movie at the very end, and if you haven't seen it, it flashes by very quickly. But I'm not just saying this because I'm with all of you. I have said this many times. It is my favorite moment of the movie. It's kind of a horrible moment. The asteroid is coming, and they sort of do this montage of all of the beings that are relying on us to make good decisions, meaning not just people, but everything on the planet, including a bee. You just see for about 2 seconds or 3 seconds, just a bee right there flapping its wings. It's very, I didn't do the editing of the movie, so I'm not crediting myself here, right? But the decision to put that in and leave it there for a sort of an extra beat, I think you will all particularly like that because it was put in there not by accident. It was put in there as a reference specifically to this.
Thank you so much, David.